Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cole's Vault Finance Unlocked. I'm very excited today to be joined by Kristine Harrop. Kristine and her late husband Steve have been a great influence in my life. I've gotten to know them over the years, and they've been fantastic stewards financially and have been very kind to those around them. And so, excited to be able to
Thank
speak
you.
with you today. And would you like to just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, I am 74 years old. Uh, Golly, what do I say? I have a large family. My husband and I had 7 children, and they've all grown. We have a lot of grandchildren, so we've been very blessed.
And so today we're talking a little bit about retirement and how that relates to finances. Everybody's picture looks a little bit different,
Yes.
and maybe that starts before retirement, just
Mhm.
during life when you have 7 kids and you're
Mhm.
trying to raise a family and save and do all these things at the same time. What was what was kind of your role and your experience of getting to retirement while trying to live life at the same time?
Yeah. Because we had so many children, we lived in a lot of different places around the country, and as a result of that, I got to meet a lot of different people through Steve's work. I learned quite a bit about investing. I didn't manage the investments, but I learned a fair amount about it.
So your husband was a professional investor,
He was.
and a very good one at that,
He
very
was.
awarded.
Hmm.
And so for you, was the family finance, was that more your domain and then his domain was investing, or how did that go?
Yeah, basically. I mean, we had pretty clear, defined roles
Yeah.
in our marriage. He was the one that worked and took care of all of that side of life. My responsibility mostly was to take care of our home and our children. But we were pretty much in sync when it came to finances.
Yeah.
We both
Good.
felt really strongly that our children needed to learn how
Hmm.
to budget. And so when they were probably 3 years old, we began giving them a very small allowance. And we had them learn how to put part of that into savings, part of that into a mission fund, and that could have been used for other things, marriage or mission fund.
Sure.
And part of it would go into tithing. So they learned from an early age how to budget.
Hmm.
And as a result, today as adults, they're all pretty good at managing their finances.
Yeah. And so I imagine that model of, dividing up your money
Mhm.
and allocating to these different buckets,
Mhm.
uh, is probably what you guys were following as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm. It was.
Oh,
Yeah, we were pretty conservative in the way we handled our finances.
yeah.
I mean, I've never been a big spender. Uh, with the children growing up, I I did what was called the envelope method
Yeah.
because I wasn't a great bookkeeper myself.
Mhm.
So I just had my money in envelopes, and that money in that envelope went to a specific need.
Mhm.
So that's how I handled it. And everybody has to do it the way it works best for them.
Yeah. I love the envelope method. I've tried to copycat that
Hmm.
with the way that we do finances,
Hmm.
but it's been difficult because with credit cards these days or debit cards being a main, use of payment,
Yes.
it's hard because obviously the original envelope method, you've got cash in the envelope and it's like
Yes.
when the cash is
Yes.
gone, you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
And so no, I think that's fantastic.
Well, it worked for me and it worked for Steve as well. And sometimes I had to steal from Peter to pay Paul,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
but it worked. But it takes discipline.
Mhm.
It takes discipline. It's the thing with credit cards. I didn't really use a lot of credit cards back then. I
Mhm.
mean, I had them, but I didn't really
Sure.
use them. I just used the cash. And I think some ways that's a little safer. It's so
Mhm.
easy to get caught up in credit card debt
Absolutely.
unless you are really disciplined.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So So you guys lived a pretty, disciplined fiscal
Hmm.
life,
We did.
raising your children, getting to that retirement stage. As you approached retirement, what were some of the fears or concerns that you had about moving into that next stage of life?
I think that anybody that is looking at retirement is concerned, are we going to have enough?
Yeah.
Have we saved enough? Do we have enough in investments that are sound
Hmm.
to provide for us when we are no longer in the workforce?
Yeah.
Uh, I think that's probably, I'm sure that was a concern for my husband. Um, but I think because of the discipline that we had had throughout our lives,
Hmm.
we were pretty well set.
Yeah. That's interesting that the way that you lived your life leading up to retirement helped give you confidence that you knew how to live
Hmm.
on a certain amount.
Oh, yes.
How did you guys go about determining what that amount was and when you were ready to
That's a good question. It's too bad he's not here to answer that
retire? That was
question.
Steve's domain.
Yeah, that was his thing. Um, as
Did you guys rely on any sort of assistance from financial professionals or anything like
Yeah,
that during that process?
yes, we did. Even though he was an investment manager, had been for
Hmm.
his whole career, except for his teaching career. Um, he managed our investments. He
Hmm.
was the one that would buy and sell and so forth. But he also relied on our investment management firm,
Hmm. Yes.
and he learned from them. He got advice from them in a lot of things, and they in turn took his advice in some areas. But I think it's good to have another outside source to counsel,
Hmm.
to advise in all of these financial areas. But
Yeah.
you have to be able to trust who it is that you are using.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and after he passed away, Steve's been gone for 3.5, a little bit more than 3.5 years. Uh, and I have continued to stay with this firm that we use. And I don't know
Hmm.
if we use names or not, but um, you have to trust who you are using
Yeah.
as a money manager. And I have continued to use this firm, and I do trust them. And they know me, I know them. So it's a matter
Hmm.
of getting to know who it is that you're using.
Yeah. And that's trust in financial planning and investment management goes so far, because what I've noticed working with advisors and with clients is that as an everyday person, it's almost impossible to go through the due diligence to really understand every process within the firm,
Yeah,
to get to know everybody that's involved in the processes. So it really comes down to trust
yeah,
and knowing that person, and like you said, being confident that they know you.
yes.
And so that goes a really long way. How did you build that trust with that firm and with your advisor?
Well, we probably had a little bit of an advantage because of Steve's career.
Sure.
He was on the board of this firm, and as a result, I mean, we knew this firm probably 25 plus years before he passed away. So we
Hmm.
we knew them for a long time. We knew the people personally, and we just knew their ethics. We
Hmm.
knew what was important to them, and if you don't have that foundation, it makes it a little bit scary to trust somebody with your
Absolutely.
finances.
Absolutely. I've found in my life that I've been surprised by how trusting some people are to,
Mhm.
meet me for a couple of meetings and then say, here's my life savings.
Oh, yes.
Take care of it, be the steward here.
Yes.
And that's enormous. And so I think that's
Mhm.
really tough. Um,
So I'm grateful personally that I knew them,
yeah.
so that when I was left responsible for all of this, that I knew that I could trust them, and I wasn't just going to some complete stranger. And I guess if you don't have that background, if you don't know the people or the company for a long time like we
Hmm.
did, then you'd have to do some research.
Absolutely.
You have to do your
Absolutely.
homework and get what you need, the information that you need to find out if they're what you want to work
Mhm.
with.
Definitely. Definitely. Um, as you approached retirement, what sort of advice did you did you receive that helped you in having confidence in the investments and in all that transition to retirement?
I just listened. I listened to Steve when he would talk about his work.
Hmm.
Uh, I came to know the terms, not that I would know what to do with them, but I knew the terms and I knew enough
Hmm.
to be able to have a little bit of confidence
Yeah.
in what I was doing, and not just in my investment firm, but in the accounting firm that I
Hmm.
used, because the accounting is a huge part of the money management.
Yes. Most people's biggest expense is their tax bill.
Yeah.
And there should normally be some communication between your investment advisor for that firm
Mm-hmm.
and your CPA or
Yes.
your tax accountant,
Yes.
because those interplay, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you get into complex situations. And so that's great that
Yes.
you had both sides.
And I got to a point, we had used an accounting firm for quite a few years. And because of a number of things, after he passed away, I decided to leave that firm. And I was counseled by a brother of mine, that I might want to use another accountant who
Hmm.
actually doesn't even live in the state. And I've been very happy with him. So I don't think we should feel like we are stuck in a firm or
Hmm.
an accounting situation if we're not comfortable with it. I think we need to go by our
Hmm.
feelings about things.
A lot of times we don't think about that relationship and that there is an opportunity to switch or to change,
Hmm.
because maybe we only meet with our tax accountant once or twice a year, depending on if they're doing planning ahead of time or not.
Uh-huh.
Same for investment advisor. You might only see them a few times. And
Hmm.
so knowing, having that relationship and knowing that you can change,
Hmm.
that's valuable.
Yeah. And I guess I was confident enough, and I trusted my brother's recommendation. Again, there's the word trust that comes
Yes.
in.
Yeah.
You just, if you don't trust something, like I said, you've got to go by your feelings, as well as gaining the information and the knowledge
Mhm.
that's necessary to have.
Hopefully that's somewhat your area of expertise, is finding people that are trustworthy
Uh-huh.
and knowing that you don't have to learn everything about your investment. You don't have to learn everything about your tax. You can learn, like you were saying, if you're a good listener, you can learn and understand what's what's happening, but
Hmm.
maybe you don't have to be down in the weeds all
Yes.
the time
Hmm.
if you have that trust.
Hmm. Exactly. And that brings confidence. And then you're not worried. You're not fearful about what the
Hmm.
future holds.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So when you got to retirement, from a financial standpoint, was it what you expected? Were there any surprises?
Um, Not on my part. There may have been some surprises on Steve's part, but I think we were so well, we had planned. We
Mm,
had been working, I would say, our whole married life to get to this point in
absolutely.
retirement. I think it's something that you can't wait until 1 or 2 or 3 years before retiring to
Hmm.
figure out what you're going to do. This has got to be, uh, like I say, years and years and years in planning and in educating yourself and
Hmm.
just just getting the knowledge that you need so you are confident in the decisions that you make.
Yeah. What helped you be confident or find assurance in the plan that you and Steve were creating? What what strategies or methods or concepts were meaningful to you?
Oh, one of the things that I thought about was we have to know our psychology. We have to know whether we are risk takers.
Yes,
And I'm not sure if this is answering your question, Cole, but
I think it is.
okay, we Steve was more conservative. He was not a risk taker, and I am not a risk taker. So because of that, our investments were um, a little safer.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing is there is the diversity issue. It was really important to him that we were diverse in our investments,
Hmm.
have a lot of different areas that our money was invested into, whether it was money markets or REITs or personal real estate property.
Hmm.
Um, because we were diverse, you don't have to worry about, oh gosh, are we going to lose everything all at once if
Yeah.
something goes wrong?
Hmm.
So for me, that has brought me a sense of peace because I know that our money is in a number of different areas,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
You
is helpful.
diversified. So you
Hmm.
had probably some, kind of some lending where you're kind of acting like a bank. Those are
Uh-huh.
bonds.
Uh-huh.
Probably had some stocks where you own ownership in companies for some growth
Hmm.
potential. Real estate, it's a great income
Uh-huh.
and inflation hedge.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, you're kind of insulated if you
That's
have
a good
different types
word.
of investments.
Yeah, that's a really good word for it, insulated.
Yeah.
So that I would say would be a big thing, would be the diversification and just making sure that we invested in things that we were comfortable in.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because if you're not comfortable in what you've invested in, that can leave you very unsettled.
Absolutely. We hit 2020 with COVID. We hit the great
Hmm.
financial crisis, 2008.
Yes.
On average, stock market drops, I think, about 10% per year.
Oh, wow.
And it's
Yeah.
not unseen for down 30, down 40. So that goes so far. And the reason I like investments and helping retirees and others is that your money plays into your day-to-day life, your
Uh-huh.
lifestyle, what you stress about, what you feel like you can do, what you feel like you can do for others.
Hmm.
And so uh, when you got into retirement, I'm sure you and Steve had talked about what you would do during retirement for fun,
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
family,
Hmm.
etc. Um, did you do what you expected to do along the way, or
Hmm.
did priorities change?
No, I wouldn't say that they changed. Um, we've had a lot of opportunities to travel, which has been great. Um, Steve more than me. I would travel with him because I enjoyed being with him.
Hmm.
Um, I think that I think we were pretty much able to do what we had planned on doing. Uh, we've had opportunities to use our wealth to help other people, um, which is very satisfying. Um, it really is. I mean, in my opinion, money is only as good if you're just using it just to self-satisfy yourself and your own ambitions and your own desires. That's great. That's great. But there has to be, personally, I feel like it's more satisfying if you can use it to see the needs of others.
Hmm.
That has been a blessing for me, and even since he's been gone, that has been a big part of what I do with some of my money
Hmm.
is helping people that I know of that are in need. That,
That's one of the things that I think is so incredible about your example and both of your examples throughout life, as well as in retirement. Um, do you use any tax strategies with your charitable giving that you're aware of?
oh gosh, that's a question I'm not sure how to
That's for your
answer.
advisor. No, no worries. There's a few, and so I thought maybe, but
uh,
that's totally fine.
well, I mean, you certainly can get deductions from charitable donations.
Yes, yeah, on your tax return,
Yes.
it can go
Uh-huh.
one of your deductions.
Yes.
So
But I don't really think about that, to be honest.
sure, yeah. Oh, that's just the benefit
Yeah,
on the back end.
that is a definite
It's not the
benefit.
purpose.
Uh-huh, but that is definitely a benefit. And I have a really great accountant, and he's been really helpful to me.
And having those professionals around you
Oh, I
is a big help
oh
because
yes.
I know the firm that you work with, and I know that they have competent people there, and so they're probably doing some of these strategies.
Hmm.
A few of them might be, if you're going to gift to a charity, like a formal 501(c) type charity, Red Cross, a church organization,
Hmm.
oftentimes set up that way. You can gift your appreciated stock. So instead of selling it and paying tax and then gifting it that cash, you can gift the stock, and you actually it's tax exempt because then the tax exempt charity is going to go sell it.
Huh.
So you can do things like that
Uh-huh.
that can go a long way. And yeah, I think it's very important that people have somebody they trust
Yes.
who can be in those weeds where they probably don't want to be. So when you think about your retirement, what do you wish that you knew earlier? What do you think that people who might be preparing for retirement, maybe they're in their 50s, early 60s, thinking about retirement, what advice would you give them?
Probably just make sure you do your homework. Do a lot of research. Ask questions. That's one thing that has been important for me
Hmm.
because there were a lot after Steve passed away, there were things I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I had to ask lots and lots of questions. And you were a good source of some answers. So I think we just need to make sure we ask questions if we are unsure.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the questions are important. How did you know which questions to ask?
It depended on the situation. I would come across, let me think a minute. I would come across documents or just things that I really didn't know the answer to.
Hmm.
So I would have to call people. I would have to ask specific questions about what do I do about this issue, or I don't know. Let me bring in the family bank right now into this.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, we had what was called the family bank, and it was started back in the early '70s by my mother recommended it.
Hmm.
And so it began with everybody in the family who could put in whatever amount of money they could into this family bank. And it started out $25 a person, for example.
Yeah.
Uh, Back then, nobody in my family had a whole lot of money. So we would just put in a little bit here and there. And over the years, it grew and grew. And so when Steve passed away, we still had the family bank. He had been the manager of the family bank because he was the one that had the skills to
Hmm.
manage it. And we had enough money that there were investments involved with the family bank, properties that had been purchased by the family bank. And so he tried to get the family bank shut down. We decided, all of us, that we needed to just close it down
Yeah.
because he was leaving. And so he was in the process of doing that when he passed away and was not able to finish the shutdown of the family bank.
Yeah.
So I was left.
That's a big thing.
That was very stressful for me, very stressful. So my son-in-law, um, who is pretty good with finances, came in and was the one that helped me financially shut that down
Hmm.
and get rid of some of the assets. Um, so that was a hard time, and
I'm sure.
and again, I simply had to ask for help.
Hmm.
And if you trust your financial advisors, then you can not be afraid to ask questions.
So the family bank, I thought that was a really interesting concept when I learned about it because I hadn't seen somebody do this
Hmm.
before. So that it acted like a bank. I know at least towards the end, it was a legal entity structured
It was.
as
Hmm.
a bank that you could pull a loan from, that you could deposit money
Hmm.
to.
Hmm.
Like you said, there were some investments involved, so maybe there was some growth there potential.
It was.
What did you like about the family bank, and what did you
Oh,
dislike? Was there anything that you disliked?
no, I wouldn't say there was anything that I disliked. It was a real blessing for a lot of people in the family. A lot of the grandchildren of my parents,
Hmm.
many of them were just starting out in life, and we were just starting out actually in life.
Yeah,
And it was a good source to go to if we wanted to borrow. We
yeah.
didn't really need to borrow, but a lot of the grandchildren over time borrowed, and then they paid it back. There was only one incident where it was not paid back. So really over probably 50 years that it went, uh, it really worked out very well, and it was a source that the family members could trust,
Hmm.
and I think it helped instill in them an understanding that they needed to be reliable, that they needed to
Hmm.
be financially responsible.
What a bonding experience for a
Yeah.
family to
Hmm.
be involved in a bank together.
Yeah, it really was.
That would lead me to feel like I need to be conservative, because if I do something wrong, that could affect,
Yes.
my sisters and their kids, etc.
Yes. Yes. And it worked out. It was a very positive, I think, positive experience.
When you mentioned, for example, borrowing, so if you go to a bank, you're going to get a rate that has their fees, their commissions, their profits
Hmm.
baked in.
Hmm.
There's actually laws that say you can't give somebody a loan for $0, but there is minimum rates that are much lower, and so having your own bank would be very advantageous to
Yes.
borrow for that reason.
Yes. And the interest was pretty low. I
Yeah,
don't remember now what it was,
it
but it was
yeah.
pretty low.
Yeah, and that minimum fluctuates, but it's much lower than what you could go out
Yes.
to like a bank and get.
Uh-huh.
So
Hmm.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
One situation that I've seen several times is that there are retirees who are trying to make their money last. They're trying to stretch it, and they're worried about that income that
Hmm.
if they can get enough. But there's also many retirees on the other end of that who have probably more than they need,
Hmm.
and they're facing decisions of, do I pass on some of my assets to kids to help them early?
Yeah.
Do I increase my lifestyle?
Hmm.
What do I want to leave money to? That's a difficult conversation, a difficult decision.
Hmm.
What do you think are considerations at that point in life if you're in a situation where you feel like you're going to have income, but you're trying to decide what to do with the rest?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I have a sizable amount of money in our investments, and I don't touch that.
Mhm.
Those investments are just there. I have taken some out at one point to give to my son, or loaned to my son, for him to go back to school, and I felt good about that. But that is just there. Those investments,
Mhm.
like I said, I don't touch those. I guess in an emergency, I know that that's there, but I don't go to that. I just live on my monthly income that comes in from some of the investments, some of my
Yeah.
real estate, and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. Again, it's kind of a person's psychology.
Mhm.
I mean, for some people, they would if they were left like I was left, and I have this money that's set aside in investments. Some people would think, oh, good, I've got all this money. Now I can go do this, or I can do that, or I
Mhm.
can buy this or that. I'm not like that. Um,
Yeah.
but there are people that would.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I know that for example, in your previous home, you were looking to replace carpet, and you
Hmm.
saved up over a long period,
Uh-huh.
rather, based off from your normal
Yeah.
income, from my understanding, rather than going and just pulling some out. And I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of discipline, and it probably
Yeah, it
came from your
is.
entire life
It
of
did.
practicing.
Yeah, it did. And I grew up with parents from the Depression generation,
Sure.
and they didn't. They were comfortable financially in their lives, but they didn't spend money frivolously. And so my brothers and I grew up very frugal,
Mhm.
and that just has always been a part of our makeup. It's just like you can't change that. That's just the way we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. It's ingrained in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which is fine because it has left me. It, if I'd spent everything that I had, which some people do.
Hmm.
I mean, I've known people that made a lot of money, but they didn't know how to budget it. They didn't know how to manage it. So even though they made a lot of money, they didn't have a lot of money
Hmm.
because they spend a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for what I have, and grateful that I have people that I can trust.
Mhm.
But I've had to educate myself a little bit.
Well, thank you so much for joining on the podcast
You're
today,
welcome.
sharing your experience, your knowledge, and if there's anything that I can do to answer questions anytime, let me know.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Cole. It's
Awesome.
been
Yep.
fun to visit.